Playtime is over. Playtime is over. Now you are a champion. God is my witness. Imperfect perfection. Living my mission and winning. See, we are influencers. We have fear but don't stop. I have the confidence to rise to the top. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. All I need is inside of me. I am enough and now I see, yeah. I will reach my destiny, yeah. I don't need your permission, yes, I'm on a mission, I'll win. Oh, oh, oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Now listen, I want y'all to repeat after me, okay? Cause we're gonna make some declarations in here today. Here we go, 1, 2, 3. I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. You say, I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. Say, I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see me. Say, oh, say I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. You say, we are standing bolder, we're shoulder to shoulder. We are standing bolder, we're shoulder to shoulder. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. Hey, yeah, yeah. We have powerful words, we have powerful minds. We use our voices and freedom takes flight. And we're ready.
Hey guys, welcome. It's Wednesday at noon, so you know what that means. That means we are here on Impact the World Radio. I'm Cheryl Wood, your host. So excited to be back with you live in the studio. I was missing in action last week in the studio because I went on this amazing business trip to just such a powerful women's business retreat that absolutely stretched me into just a whole new space. You know how you get those feelings of a little bit of anxiety and like you're doing something new? It was that kind of space. Wonderful. With really, really powerful women who are power players in their own right. And I felt like God was saying, okay, Cheryl, you belong at the table. He put me at the table, and I'm excited about what is going to manifest as a result of that. So I'm back home, back fired up, ready to pour back into you and bring you some amazing guests as we do every week, every Wednesday, of primarily women who are just doing their thing and just killing it in the world, right? So impact the world. That is the purpose of the show, is to bring to you men and women who are using their unique gift to impact the world in a big way. And the question that I always want you to ask yourself, those who are joining us through Facebook Live, those of us who are joining us through voxwave.com, I always want you to ask yourself, okay, I'm inspired, I'm motivated by these people I'm seeing on the show as guests, but what am I doing? How am I using my gift? Your gift was not meant to just be kept tucked away neatly on a shelf somewhere collecting dust. Your gift is meant to allow you to create a legacy. That's what Tammy talks about in that song, building your legacy for the whole world to see. and for you to impact the world in a way that otherwise it will never be touched if you don't share your gift. So your gift is your gift, and it should never be in comparison to anybody else. So whether it's speaking, or whether it's coaching people, or whether it's baking sweet potato pies, or whether you're the baddest real estate mama jamma in the country, or the baddest spoken word artist, whatever that thing is, are you using it to its fullest so that you never have regrets? So that you never look back on your life and say, man, I sure wish I had tried this or tried that or used my gift in this way or that way. That's the intention of the show. And so again, we have an amazing lineup for you today. My first guest is a spoken word artist. Her name is Khadija Ali Coleman. I'm pronouncing that correctly because I can jack up some names. Y'all know it. Y'all know I can. And let me tell you a little bit more about her. So they call her a mama artist. She's a master teacher and a social activist. She's the founder of the multidisciplinary arts collective called Liberated Muse Arts, and a 2015 Maryland State Arts Council Individual Artist Awardee. She's a singer, she's a songwriter, a playwright, and emerging visual artist. She uses poetry to express, ignite, and educate. She is editor of 3 Liberated Muse book anthologies of creative writing and visual art from creatives around the world. And, this is exciting, released her debut CD titled Song of a Space Cadet in 2016. She has performed at the Apollo Theater, debuted one of her plays at the Kennedy Center, and been featured at more than a half dozen festivals. Can you say bad mama jamma? Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's so good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
So you are multi-talented.
I think I am.
You are. Yes, I think we know you are. How did you find that this was your gift? That using the power of visual arts and writing and bringing to life words through song and poetry. How did you find that that was your gifting?
Well, I realized very early on that I just have a need to express, a need to be able to share with others how I interpret the world. And for the most part, I do that as a writer. But as a writer, I learned that there are different mediums that you can really share your messages in, whether it's through a play, whether it's through a film, whether it's through a song. And so just even as a child, I was always trying to gather my friends to us to do like a play for no one or writing stories, really things. I did that a lot being unencouraged or it not having to be for a school assignment or my mother sending me to my room to do it. It was something that I just naturally wanted to do. But it was always done with other messages I'm receiving saying that's a hobby or that's not something to be taken seriously. And it wasn't until I really became an adult that I learned that a lot of that we can manifest what it is that we do in the world, whether it's we want to do it professionally, whether we have a passion and it's a hobby and we want to devote a certain amount of time, that doesn't diminish its importance to us. And so, I spend a lot of time fielding questions from folks. Do you get paid for that? Are you doing that? How much did someone hire you to do? And for me, that's irrelevant because everything that I do is because it's a part of who I am. So,
well, I love that, and again, that's something that we promote rigorously here on the show and through my work is you being very authentic to who you are and how you're meant to touch and impact the world, and it doesn't have to look like what anybody else thinks that it needs to look like or what anybody else has done. You can absolutely figure out how you want to manifest your unique gift. So I love that. And it brings for me, it brings to mind the word courage and boldness to say this may not be something that even family sometimes understands. Because like you said, their question might be, can you get paid for that?
Right.
Are you going to make any money from that?
Right.
That may not be your intention. Maybe it is, as you mentioned, it's going to be a hobby. It's just your passion and you're not looking to monetize that.
Right.
You just have to know what lane you're playing in. If that's where the lane you're playing in, then that's absolutely fine.
Right.
But I love your courage in saying, this is my gift and I'm going to absolutely use the gift. So were there any points in time where you felt thwarted away from your gift and maybe it seemed like, I want to do this, but am I qualified to do this? So did fear ever show up in the conversation?
Right now, what I think more of my life has been being fearful of showing up and being fully who I am, because there's so many people who either try to deter you to be in this one thing. One thing that I experience a lot is I enjoy doing many things. That is just my nature. I'm a multitasker. I like doing things, and I even majored in college in interdisciplinary studies, so I see a lot of connections between genres, between cultures. I see how things connect. I see the common thread between things that may seem unrelated. And so that's why I do many things, is because I'm always just connecting. And for a lot of people, that seems to be, you hear the jack of all trades, Jill of all trades, and that's usually disparaging, that if you do a lot of things, then you can't be good in one thing. And that hasn't, the one thing that I'm good at is being able to navigate different spaces and to do many things. That's what I do. And so when you ask about challenges or fears, I'm very fearful sometimes at when I walk into a space, whether I'm working at a job or working with people or a team, is how I'll be judged and how that will work against me, because it's still counter to what prevails in society in terms of being good at many things. Folks just don't believe that that's possible. And so it's like so basically you're invalidating me as a person because you say it's not possible, but that's who I am. So
and let's talk about that a little bit. So I want to expound on that, because I'm a coach, and I coach women who are in business, and one of the things that we do talk about is making sure that you niche down and narrow down, right? So from my perspective, let me kind of clarify what I mean when I say that to my clients. So I do believe that you can be great at many things, but I believe that you can master one at a time. So it's not that I can't be great at cooking and great at photography and great at speaking and that's not what it is, because life is vast and there are so many things that are open to us. But the question is, if you're going to master something, typically most of us, mastery means you immerse yourself in something and you invest thousands of, most times, dollars and hours into really learning that trade or that skill or that craft. And so from my perspective as a coach, for those of you who are business owners, because we have a lot of business owners who watch the show, it's fine to be great at many things, but have you mastered each one so that now you can get out into the world and be the best at it, versus trying to master 5 different crafts at one time. So let me focus on mastering the craft of speaking. And then once I feel like I've mastered that craft, can I then take that and move on to something else? So I have an interest in photography, and I have an interest in going to culinary school, believe it or not. But I'm going to master one at a time, because I know that I can't be pulled in too many different directions. So I like to give the example. If I'm cooking dinner and I'm trying to do a session with a client, and my kid is trying to get me to help him with homework, something's going to get jacked up because I can't master all 3 at the same time. But if I cook dinner, and that's amazing, and then I move on and I help my kid with his homework, and okay, that's done. And now I move on now it makes sense, because I've taken one thing at a time and I've mastered it. So I absolutely agree with you that people can be a master over many things. So I like that you've given yourself permission.
It's about doing the work too.
Yeah, doing the work, yeah.
And it also, as an educator, it's also about what our learning strategies are, how we approach things. You know, everyone is not the same. How we absorb, and for me, I am visual and an audio learner, kinesthetic as well. And so I'm really quick. Like, someone can show me something and I can quickly pick it up. There's certain things that are not so quick. My mother was a mathematician, so math was not very easy for me, but I love learning about math and science. And so that's how I learn, is how can word problems, things through language. So again, our learning styles are different. Yeah. So it's so disappointing a lot of times to have people really try to encapsulate what I'm capable of doing, because they know what they're capable of, and to project that on me. And so,
and if you're around those folks, get around some new folks. That's all I'm saying, is you've got to monitor and manage your inner circle, because it is important that you are around people who are fueling you, right, and encouraging you to live up to your gift, and people who are allowing you to shine brightly in whatever your gift or gifts are. And so that's another important thing that I want to really emphasize is, who's in as my friend Dr. Stacey Grant always says, who's in your front row, or who is in that inner circle of people who are saying, you're amazing and you're gifted at all these things, like go for it. Not the people who, as you're speaking about, who can sometimes try to diminish your style of doing things or what you are gifted at. So let's talk about the Apollo. How did you make your way to the Apollo? Like, how did that happen?
That was so long ago. I was part of just a group of singers here in Prince George's County, Maryland, who we did karaoke, open mics, and things like that, and just part of just a really rich network of folks. And it was like a caravan of people going to the Apollo, and so we went there. So they had the show going on, but they also, the Apollo had weekly amateur nights on Wednesdays, and when you could actually win money. And so I won one Wednesday that we went, and then I was in, like years later, I was invited. I did an audition at Howard University, and I made it onto the show, and that was very funny. Fun and funny. The person who won was dressed up like Bill Clinton and sang Shaggy's. It wasn't me.
So what did that experience do for you? What did it awaken something in you? Did it spark something like, oh, I'm really going for it, or were you already in that space?
No, it was fun. A lot of my work that I do is really conscious art. Like I'm really focused on transforming space. That's actually the tagline of Liberated Muse, transforming spaces into arts places. I have had some wonderful opportunities, but a lot of the work that I do is really centering the voices of Black women in particular, Black people in general, in spaces where, and to be able to discuss things that are impacting us politically and socially. Mm-hmm. And so that's the work that I do as an educator as well. I teach communication studies. I'm a college professor. And I homeschool my daughter. So it's a lot of stuff that I'm doing, and arts allows me to really, it's a tool that I'm able to create these spaces.
Awesome. And so then let's talk about this play that you did at the Kennedy Center.
That was fun.
You've used the word fun a couple times.
Yeah, well, that's what it's about for me. The experiences have to be something, for me to continue to do this, it has to be enjoyable. We do so many things as people. I've done so many things. Oh, I'm touching. What is this? We do so many things. I know that I am breaking out. I'm in my 40s now, and it's really about doing things that I enjoy, knowing what it is that I enjoy. And I was invited. It's this young theater company called Too Much Damn Theater, and they were invited to the Kennedy Center's Page to Stage festival that happens annually in late summer, right before fall hits. And they were doing an up-all-night musical where you had to write a musical in 48 hours and then stage it.
Wow.
At the Kennedy Center. So I was like, yes, because I like challenges.
That's me, yeah.
Yes. And so Liberated Muse Arts, we do theater, mostly theater and music. And so I grabbed my girls, and they were down. I was really excited about that. And so I wrote this 10 minutes, so it was a short play.
Yeah.
So 10-minute play, couldn't be longer than 10 minutes. And it was called Miss Trudy's Birthday. And we won. We won all of the audience awards. It was so much fun. So actually, we got invited by the Kennedy Center to be part of the Pages stage this fall as Liberated Muse. And so I have to write that piece that we're going to stage there. But yeah, it was so much fun.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, that just reminds me of the saying that, your gifts will make room for you.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what has happened in your journey. It's definitely what's happened in my journey.
Yeah.
When you give yourself permission and you show up.
So you asked me about the Apollo. That inspired me. But the Up All Night musical inspired me to, I got all cocky, I can do this in 48 hours. So I did the 48-hour film project, a month after that in October, and we had to do a horror movie, and we did. We put together a film called Bracelet, and we were nominated for Best Score, and that was fun. And we did it again this past about 3 weeks ago. So that is I like that. I like creating on the spur, impromptu.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to what you said earlier, which is you got to know yourself.
Yes.
And you have to know what fuels you, what makes you feel amazing, what gives you that sense of joy and fun and fulfillment. One of the things I always say in my business is you cannot rob me of my joy.
Right.
I can't take on anything in business that steals joy from me because I worked in a corporate space for 15 years and had no joy.
Yeah.
No joy. I did it because I knew how to do it.
Yep.
it earned me a paycheck. I could pay my bills, but there was no joy. So now one of the parts of my business is, so for instance, before I take on clients, I have to have a session with them.
Yeah.
Like some session either by video or by phone to find out, is there a synergy? Am I really the right fit for you? Are you the right fit for me? Yeah, that vibe. Because I don't want to dread getting on a session with any client because it's joyless, because they're draining me. So I have to make sure for me that it really is a fit.
I will admit that, I will say this, and I hope this doesn't, because I actually do coaching too. I hope this doesn't deter anyone from ever hiring me. But I actually had a client once, because I did not do that early consultation, and they were a referral, and I was like, I just can't work with you anymore.
Right.
And I I can't call you back, because they had this energy that was so absorbing and suffocating.
Yeah.
And like they would just ask me for a little, and it would just be, you know how someone just comes and then all of a sudden they're like on you?
Yeah.
And she was in another state, but that's how I always felt. Like she was just submerging me, and I was like, I can't do that. It's so important to do check.
It really. And I only learned to do discovery sessions because I went through some cray-crays. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You get some cray-crays in business, right?
Oh my God.
And I had some cray-crays, and I was like, oh my God, why did I take her check?
Yes.
That was early on in my coaching business. And my husband used to see me fret getting on the phone to have a session because the person was all over the place. They weren't willing to really bring it in, to do the work. And it just used to, vex. It used to make me feel very vexed.
I feel it.
And I remember after that, I was like, I will never, ever put myself in that position again, where my business is robbing me of the joy that made me say yes.
That you've created something that you were trying to get away from.
So, you learn. That's the beauty of falling flat on your face and having these times of, you're not uncertainty, and times where it didn't work exactly, is that you learn something. If you're willing to take the lesson, there's always a lesson in it. So we're going to stop talking, and we're actually going to take like a 1-minute break, and we're going to have you set up over on the microphone, and we're going to have you give us a little bit of your greatness. So stay tuned, guys, and we will be right back.
All right.
Hey, Tanya.
We have powerful words, we have powerful minds. We use our voices and freedom takes flight. And we're ready to work, we're ready to win. We have a strategy and now we can begin. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Time is over. Now you are a champion. God is my witness. Imperfect perfection. Living my mission and winning. See, we are influencers. We have fear but don't stop. I have the confidence to rise to the top. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. All I need is inside of me. I am enough, and now I see. Yeah, I will reach my destiny. Yeah.
Phone is on you. Please, let's give it up. Do y'all do this? For Khadijah Ali Coleman. You see how I said it in my soft, sexy voice?
I am the test that was taken, the last leg of the finished mile. I have witnessed the lash of lessons that bruised my innocence, erased my smile. But here I stand, stoically, unafraid to back down from who is me. Yes, here I stand, even after I'm gone. I leave behind my gifts and lessons in my song. living minds. Young and old, gather round to hear tales told of ethereal goddesses who stand in our midst to open our minds as they share their gifts. Bronze-colored nymphs who triumph to lead the way. Coffee-hued angels who sang melodies we still sing today. From humanity's cradle to our present-day lives, around us she exists in the souls of our daughters and mothers and wives. She raises our children, sometimes alone, builds our nation brick by the love she fosters in her home. Whether a teacher or a nurse, an engineer or a cashier, she is at the root of most successes among our people, and it is very clear. Called Etta and Lena, named Minnie and Nina, Zora Neale and Sojourner Truth, so many of them, no greater proof to illustrate the majesty of the being known as Black woman, Black girl, transforming our realities, transforming our worlds. From the history dating back to civilizations early and young, from the womb of the ebony mother is where humanity has sprung from. Scattered around to lands to and fro, we continue to seek and find the commonality that links us all, that is called humankind. Yes, our African mother is our connecting spirit that binds us to our responsibility to our human race. Yet so it is that in our country, the demon of separateness is one that we still face. But our history serves us well if we look back and recall. It is only in unity in spite of race that we rise together and grow. With animosity, we perish and fall. Remember Mary McLeod Bethune. Remember Ida B. Wells Barnett. Let us reflect on their tributes to our world of education, community building, and journalism. Let us not forget. Let us not forget. Remember Fannie Lou Hamer. Let's be proud of our First Lady Michelle. Let us tell our children about their legacies for social justice and health activism. Teach their histories to our children so they know them well. Know them well. Remember Lucille Clifton while sharing with them now the works of Bell Hooks, Alice Walker, and Toni Morrison. While these women still remain, it is in reverence and our commitment to teaching and sharing that our young ones will honor their legacy and remember their names. Remember their names. Come celebrate. And remember the history that tells our tale so very challenged and long. Our future is already a masterpiece, awaiting our presence if we heed the message of their lives, their words, their song. So here I stand, stoically. I leave behind my gifts to you. In my song, in my song, in my song.
Woo, y'all, snap it up on Facebook. Come on now. And those of you who are watching, that was the amazing, the phenomenal Khadijah Ali Coleman. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with our next guest. Awesome.
We have powerful words. We have powerful minds. We use our voices and freedom takes flight. And we're ready to work. We're ready to win. We have a strategy and now we can begin. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. Now you are a champion. God is my witness. Imperfect perfection. Living my mission and winning. See, we are influencers. We have fear but don't stop. I have the confidence to rise to the top. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. All I need is inside of me. I am enough and now I see, yeah. I will reach my destiny, yeah. I don't need your permission, yes, I'm on a mission, I'll win. Oh, oh, oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Now listen, I want y'all to repeat after me, okay? Cause we're gonna make some declarations in here today. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. You say, I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. Say, I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see me. Say, oh, say I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. You say, we are standing bolder, we're shoulder to shoulder. We are standing bolder, we're shoulder.
All right, and we're back. Wasn't that just beautiful? For those of you who want to connect with Khadijah, you can visit her on the web at liberatedmuse.com. Liberatedmuse.com. Before I introduce my next guest, I do want to thank our platinum and our gold partners of this show, Impact the World Radio, because without them, the show would not be possible. So first, I want to thank Cheryl M. Good, who is the founder of the 8th annual Recharge Health, or the annual, I should say. She just finished her 8th annual Recharge Health, Wellness, and Fitness Expo. She just put out some videos today covering this 8th annual expo that she had just last month. Was it last month or in May? Yeah, last month. It was phenomenal. You should check it out next year. It's always in April. I think it's the second Saturday of April. So check that out. You can visit her on Facebook and social media at Cherie M. Good. She also is the founder of Total Harmony Enterprises, which is a company that focuses on mind, body, and soul, and teaching us as women especially to take time to recharge our batteries the same way we do with our devices. And then also our platinum partner is Ladrine Peterson. And Ladrine has a company called Do It. And she helps turn dreamers into doers. Now, she has a special campaign that's going on. The nonprofit component of Do It is launching what she calls I Am the Legacy campaign, which is so powerful. She's partnered with the Muse Paint Bar at the National Harbor. I've actually been there. I actually love that spot. The kickoff is a Painting for a Cause party happening Monday, June 4th at 7 p.m. right at the National Harbor. For every ticket purchase, the Muse Paint Bar will donate $15 towards the I Am the Legacy campaign. Now, this is just the first of many events. So if you're wondering what the campaign really is geared towards and what it's focused on, well, Ladrine recalls that oftentimes she heard people say, I want to leave a legacy for my children. And some people would say, I want to leave a legacy for my children and their children, right? My children's children. So she pondered on that possibility and began digging deeper on that statement to figure out how she could play a role in helping people to create legacy. It landed her with the question, what if we as a community invested in our children now and put them on track to start building legacies now? She took her thoughts and ideas and put them into actions, and as a result, has the hashtag I Am the Legacy campaign has been birthed. The campaign consists of 3 components. Number 1, a youth pitching contest with a grand prize that provides startup funding for a new or existing business. Number 2, a youth anthology book. And number 3, a youth conference symposium. There are various options for supporting this campaign, including donations and volunteering. So you want to follow the hashtag I Am a Legacy, hashtag I Am a Legacy. And you want to follow Ladrine Howard Peterson on Facebook, as well as Do It Delivers on Instagram. So thank you so much for partnering with us for this show. And then our gold partners, Amina McWhirter, who's the founder of Love by the Handles, Inc., which is a 501c3 nonprofit community-based organization serving individuals in transition within the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. They provide a gift of love and or financial support for individuals who are in transitional stages of their life. And you can visit them at lovebythehandles.org. And last but not least, Robin Rogers, who is a lifestyle and image expert who helps women to develop greater self-confidence and reflect that confidence through inner and outer image. She empowers women to enjoy a transformed lifestyle despite life-changing trauma and transition. So powerful. She's actually going to be hosting her symposium called the Whole Woman Symposium on September 8th. So mark your calendars for that. September 8th. It's a one-day event, 10 to 5. You can go to the wwb2018.eventbrite.com. The wwb2018.eventbrite.com. So again, thanks to all of our partners who helped to make this show possible. And now moving on to our next guest, who actually has a really special place in my heart. We've worked together. I've seen her grow and transform, and I'm just super excited to have her here. Her name is Janice Bowles. She calls herself the Life Encourager. She's a wife. She's a mother of two. She's the co-owner of B Premier Ventures LLC, which is a real estate development company specializing in the acquisitions, renovations of distressed properties within Florida and Richmond, Virginia. She debuted as an author in 2015 with her first book, Complicated Grief, My Journey to Peace, and is most recently a co-author of a book anthology, Women Inspiring Nations. She's here today to speak with us more about her quest to help others manage grief after loss. And she also is an advocate for change and the removal of stigma associated with mental health awareness. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
It's so exciting to have you here.
Yes, I'm excited to be here. Yay.
So you remind me a little bit of Khadijah. You're very, very busy. You're a busy lady.
Yes,
You're doing great things in the world.
Yes, I am.
So when I met you, when we connected, it was on the premise of loss that you had experienced in your life, and you were ready to share that experience that you went through in that journey and ended up putting it into a book. So if you would talk to us about that experience and why you're in a space now where you want to help others to manage their own loss.
Sure. Well, after, seeing you on social media and kind of, stalking you in a sense. And looking
faithful
at
stalkers. You got to have some faithful stalkers, y'all.
I had, at that time frame, lost my sister back in 2013. My sister passed away very suddenly. She lived down in Florida. And I have always dealt with grief and loss. Well, not necessarily dealt with it, but had it very early on in my life. My father died at 15, my mother at 18, I lost a brother at 21. Different other family members throughout the time, but of immediate family, those were the most impactful to me. And I never really dealt with the issues at hand. For instance, with my dad, when he passed away, I can remember just looking at it as if he had moved away out of town. That's how I dealt with him leaving me. And with my mom, 2.5 years later, it was very traumatic for me because at that time frame, it was like 5 days before my 19th birthday. Me growing up with my mother, she was a very stern parent, did not speak as much, but, what she said, she meant.
Right.
And I was a very inquisitive child, teenager, didn't want to take just no. I want to know why.
Right.
How can I change it? Try to, debate my way through a lot of circumstances. And my mother was just not a big communicator. She was very passive, but yet very stern in her discipline. So I rebelled. I looked at it from the standpoint of, okay, if she said no, I'm going to do it anyway, and I'll suffer the consequences when I got back home.
Right.
And all years of doing that, about 2 to 3 years of doing that, and then when I lost her because she died very suddenly as well of a heart attack, I equated that to I actually contributed to my mother's death because of the fact of me just being so rebellious and her, thinking about me and worrying about me. So losing her was very, very, very stressful for me, and I had no outlet to talk about it. I had other older siblings, but they were, adults and with their own lives and whatnot. I felt like I didn't have an outlet to talk, so, there was times where I didn't even want to really exist any longer because I felt such strain of the fact that I caused my mom's death. And I, really didn't overcome that, kind of suppressed it, moved on or whatever the case may be. The stigma of not being able to share and talk about your feelings of depression or anxiety within the Black community, in particular with families, everything is like, you'll get over it eventually, in due time. Those are type of, conversations, but those conversations were not enough for me, and I didn't have an outlet. So I didn't know where to turn, but in 2013 with my sister, losing my sister and I, we went through about 6 years of not having communication with one another. She was an older sister of mine. We just, for reasons both of us had different circumstances that we could not talk about, being stubborn. You know, I looked at her as, okay, she's my older sister. She's trying to be my mom, and I don't want to listen to what she has to say.
Right.
She's looked at me perhaps as being the younger sister and wants to nurture me and be that mother figure, and I didn't want that. So it caused a lot of strain with our relationship. And for 6 years, we did not speak to one another. We had no contact. So when I got the phone call back in November 2013 that she had passed away, you know, everything surfaced back to me again, even from, you know, previous years. And I struggled. I really, really struggled a lot because, you know, the circumstances of thinking, you know, here again, if I only would have talked to my sister or made an effort, or was our, you know, problems really that significant to the point where we didn't speak to one another, you know. I blame myself all over again, and that was very traumatic for me. But this time around, you know, throughout the years, I said, okay, enough is enough. I'm not going to just suppress this. I'm going to seek counseling. I'm going to seek treatment or whatever is necessary, because I was very, you know, depressed and went through depression. And I had an outlet, and I felt good about that. I didn't, you know, I didn't hide any longer. I didn't care about stigma. You know, I just wanted to have someone to talk to and to talk over my problems with. And in the midst of doing that as well, I journaled a lot. I used to do that a lot as a child as well, so I journaled a lot. And I came up with, you know, through that journaling, my first book entitled, you know, Complicated Grief. So it talks about the issue of how I handled and recovered from my sister's death and the impact that it had upon me. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just such a powerful story, to lose so many loved ones, your dad, then your mom, and then your sister unexpectedly. And I mean, for most people, that would be something that's very, very difficult to handle and to keep moving forward. And so how do you deal with that? Like, other than getting it off your chest and talking about it and having somebody to express your emotions to. And that's why I love that you are sharing it, and that you're talking about the stigma around therapy and support and counseling and all those things, because in the African American community, it is taboo, right?
Yes.
It's like, oh, well, we handle it ourselves, and we don't take our business outside of the household.
Right.
Our business stays here, right?
Yes.
So I commend you, because that showed a lot of boldness and courage to step outside of that and say, no, I need support. And just because you ask, this is what I want everybody to understand, because so many women suffer with depression from whatever. It might not be from loss of a loved one. It might be from something else. It might be loss of, you know, a marriage or whatever. It's things that happen in our lives. But I want you to understand that seeking support and counseling and therapy, if you will, is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength, right?
Absolutely.
Because now look at you.
Yes.
You're stronger, you're more courageous, you're bolder, and now you can help other people who are going through a similar situation. I'm going to share a story, and it's not my story, but I'll share it. And I didn't understand how this, I assume the lady is well, she mentioned therapy, but she's in the African American community. It was at a retreat, a business retreat I just came back from in Naples, Florida last week. This lady is like a big time executive at NBC. Her and her husband had been married for over 20 plus years. And then they just, I guess, grew apart, and they were getting a divorce. And the day that the divorce was final, she said they had a conversation on the phone, and they were just like, you know, okay, well, you know, it didn't work out. We don't hold anything against each other. You know, we'll be friends, whatever. So that night, that evening, she comes home only to learn that her husband has murdered their child, their 7-year-old daughter. Yeah.
My.
When I tell you at the event, like, there wasn't one person there that wasn't in tears, but and it's just happened a year ago. This just happened last June. And she was totally pulled together. She was composed. She wasn't, everybody in the audience was boo-hooing. And they asked her, well, how are you sitting here, like, holding it together?
That's right.
And she said, faith and therapy. Like, those are the two things. So when you need the support, go get the support.
Absolutely.
So how do you support people who are going through perhaps something similar, or, as you state in your bio, who are going through a space where they're trying to manage grief after they've lost something?
Well, for me, I set out, you know, once I went through the experience that I did with my sister, and for me, you know, I set out to, okay, I want to be able to share, particularly to my community, most importantly, that it's okay to seek therapy in addition to prayer. Okay, yes, we pray to God, we meditate to God, you know, and prayer works, and God, you know, He's with us and He answers. But if we need to have that, you know, medication to get us over, in addition to, it's okay. I want to, you know, indicate that first and foremost. So for me, what I kind of just set out to do is just try to have a dialogue for people to just be able to take that first step to just acknowledge and recognize and talk, because that's the biggest issue at hand. We know we shield, we put underneath the rug the issues, and we don't want to bring it to surface. And I dealt with that so much of my childhood. I mean, just common everyday, you know, conversations. When adults came into the house, you know, I was shunned into the back of the house, or you couldn't, you know, you couldn't ask questions. I was not able, you know, to just have a conversation of just asking my mom, well, Mom, how come this? Or, you know, just talk with her and reason with her, because she, you know, she didn't allow that. And it didn't it took until I became, you know, in my mid-20s or 30s to actually realize that, you know, my mother was probably depressed. She was suffering from it. And, you know, my father, he was ex-military. My father was an alcoholic. I call him a weekend alcoholic. Now, my dad, he was just jovial. Actually, he was very funny when he was drunk or what have you. And he was not confrontational or anything. But again, I think about it. He probably went towards that alcohol to deal with the issues of, you know,
well, we had a different experience, because my father was definitely not jovial when he was drunk, which was most of the time. But, you know, after his passing, I learned a lot about the demons that he suffered with, which I'm sure is the thing that led him to drinking, because it made him feel like he was suppressing the pain that he was going through.
That's right.
Versus going to someone and getting support, getting therapy, getting counseling, whatever, so that he could get it out. Like you said, bring it to the forefront, acknowledge it, so that you can get support with it. So
exactly. So since then, you know, for me, I just set out to encourage people and steer them in the direction of talking. Let's talk about it first. Let's get your whatever the situations are, even if you're going through grief from a loss. Let's, you know, don't suppress it. Let's bring it forward to the forefront and talk about it. So for right now, what I do is I'm a volunteer group facilitator down in Fredericksburg, Virginia, for the mental health awareness. And it's a small support group that happens on Tuesday nights. And these are individuals that are dealing with anything from grief to you know, bad relationships. Some are on medication, some are not. Just needing someone to talk to and have an outlet for. So I assist, because as a volunteer, to help steer them towards being able to share, because we're in a group type setting, very confidential what they share. And also in the facilitating is you know, a social worker that is, you know, licensed and what have you, and they're there as well. And it's kind of a therapeutic way of getting things out. And I really truly believe that the first impact is just to talk.
I mean, have you ever like had something that was weighing on you? Like let's just all admit it. Like let's take grief out of it. But have you ever had something that was just kind of weighing on you, or maybe you had you know, tension with somebody, and you walking around mad, and they walking around mad, and you hold it in, they hold it in, and like I love the thing that Jada Pinkett Smith just did, the red table talk with her and Gabrielle Union, and how they haven't talked to each other in 17 years. They don't even know why. It's like, and when you finally vent it and express it, it's like, so in fact, I think Gabrielle said that. She said, you know, I feel like this big gorilla has just been lifted off of my back. So talking is therapeutic, getting those emotions out. I know if my husband and I, we have tension, it's like that tension can go on and on and on and on until we sit and talk. And once you get it off your chest and you vent it, sometimes that alone is like, oh, okay, I'm better. You want to go get a burger, right? Like everything can be okay.
That's right.
Sometimes you need more than that, but I think talking is a great first step.
Absolutely.
The thing that I want to know, and I would love for you to share with the audience, is how does a person even know that they need to seek counseling? Like, what is it that they should be looking for that says, this is a little bit more than just you're grieving. This is at a level where you need support, you need to talk, you need to be in a support group or something like that.
Absolutely.
Are there certain signs they can look for?
Yes, definitely signs. I mean, just if you're not into your average everyday normalcy, for instance, you're not doing the things that you love to do, that could be a strong sign. You know, suppressing yourself away from individuals and away from people.
Isolating.
That could be a sign. Just a change in eating habits.
Yes.
Overeating, you know, binging, not eating, you know, losing weight. Those are signs. Restlessness, insomnia. For me, I slept a lot all the time.
Right.
That's, one of the things that I did. I just didn't want to do anything. I would just, get up, put my son on the bus, and come back in and just go to sleep.
Yeah.
Things wouldn't get done.
Yeah.
And I went through, a full, year and a half of doing that.
Yeah.
So when you recognize just when you're getting away from your normalcy, that is something where you just can't brush off and say, oh, it'll just go away.
Yeah.
Try to start at that point to deal, and talk about it. And if need be, seek, medical
Absolutely.
assistance.
Yeah,
It's,
those were absolutely great signs to look for. I want to give a shout out to Cheryl, who says this segment is powerful for so many reasons. One thing that I took away, seeking help is a true sign of strength. Yeah, it's not a sign of weakness.
Yes, it is.
And then Arthur Martin says, love you, please pray for my family. We will definitely keep you and your family in prayers. You never know what people are going through, because sometimes, especially as women, we have perfected wearing a mask.
That's right.
And we smile, hey, and then people say, how you doing? I'm fine. No, you're not. No, you're not.
That's
But
right.
we're so used to just responding that way. So again, I love that you have taken something that personally impacted you, that you personally have dealt with, and you have the transparency to share it and to say it and to speak it out
Yes.
loud. Like,
Yes.
that's where your power is.
Yes.
Your true power and true strength is in sharing what you've been through, so that somebody else either doesn't have to go through it,
That's right.
or can get to the solution of what they're going through, which is similar to what you've gone through, quicker
That's
than
right.
you did.
Absolutely.
And that is so, when we
Yes.
talk about impacting the world, that's really impacting the world, because you can go through stuff in life and don't tell nobody, don't share it with nobody. Okay, what was the knowledge gained for?
And you're just
what did
suffering.
Yeah,
You're
right.
suffering.
And who did it serve?
That's right.
Like, I believe we go through experiences and we go through trauma and we go through drama in our life, and there's always lessons learned. But if you don't take it, then the knowledge is just something that, okay, it impacted me, but I'm not using it to touch other people's lives. So I love that you are doing this with intention. If someone wants to get started, let's say they are, I don't know, anywhere in the world, and they want to connect with you just because they're watching this show and they're like, I need somebody to talk to. What's a starting point? How do they connect with you so that they can start to at least open up to the idea of sharing?
Sure. Well, what I did was I created a Facebook community group page that's called Let's Journey Through Grief Management and Support. You can connect with me on that. You can connect with me on my Facebook as Janice Bowles. But that particular group, I created just to try to get folks to come in and just acknowledge the first step. I am available for speaking as far as panel discussions and just sharing the impact of what has happened to me, and just taking what was, the enemy meant to be negative and stress, and it's really pulled out greatness, because now I'm able to acknowledge this, free myself, and stop someone else from not going through all the trauma that I went through, because just by just talking. So I have a website. It's called I Am Janice Bowles. My name, Janice, and my last name, Bowles, B-O-L-E-S. You can reach out to me on my website. And my website is kind of a compilation of this, because this is my hard work, and, dealing with the grief and more awareness for mental illness. In addition to, it has my real estate information on there as well, because these are two passions that's great and, very dear to me. So IamJaniceBowles.com.
Well, I love, from when we first started working together, you have just grown so much. It's so amazing to see where a person, how far they can come when they do the work. Like, coaches, we can't take credit for anything. Like, seriously, we show up, we give you a little bit of content, we give you some, motivation, you can do it, a place to talk, a safe space. But it is up to the client, the person that you're working with, to execute, to implement, and to do the work. And you have shown up and you've done the work. And I see such a different woman than I saw when we first connected. Like, you are more outspoken, you're making connections with people, and it's beautiful to watch it. Before we wrap up, I do want you to talk a little bit about the book, how people can get their hands on that, because some people may not be ready for the conversation yet.
Absolutely.
Right? And we meet people where they are.
Exactly.
And we respect them where they are. But some people may say, well, I just need a resource right now, and then maybe that resource will lead them to the space where they want to connect. So tell them about the book and how they can get their hands on that.
Well, this is my my first book that I created, Complicated Grief, My Journey to Peace. And this was my debut back in 2015, which is just basically my going through my loss of my sister in particular and our relationship. So it takes you through the pain that I went through and just discovering myself to get through the loss of her and how to manage that grief. So you can connect with me to get this book on my website, IamJanicebowles.com as well. And then I had the, great honor of being a part of Women Inspiring Nations. I have a chapter in this book with the other 24 dynamic women.
Yes.
And in my chapter in this particular book was called That Beautiful Feeling of Healing, Blisters Are Only Temporary, where again I talk about grief and loss and the impact that it has, and kind of give you some tools and some resources as far as some steps and awareness of what you can do to recover and manage, and also touch bases a little bit on mental wellness and health and healing. So you can get this on my website as well, IamJanicebowles.com.
All right, so there you have it. IamJanicebowles.com. I am Janice Bowles. That's BOLES.com. Make sure you connect with her. If you're a person who is suffering in silence, we don't want you to suffer in silence. We don't want you to grieve in silence. We don't want you to grieve as someone who is isolated. We want you to connect with the community. I tell every person that I work with, when you are feeling at your lowest, that is not the time to isolate yourself, because depression truly can settle in and sink in, and it can lead to very traumatic things and tragic things, and we don't want that. So we want to encourage you and really give some people permission today to reach out and seek out the help and the support that you need. It is okay. It is okay to say, I need help right now. I can't make it through this on my own. I just need somebody to hear me, listen to me. And sometimes people just need that. They don't even need your opinion. They don't need your viewpoint. They don't need your input. They just need to listen. Yes, you don't always have to have something to say back. And just having that space. So that's what Janice is creating, a safe space, a confidential space for you if you are in that space, whether it's, the mental health segment, which we had a segment on that a couple weeks ago, which was phenomenal, or whether it's, the depression, whether it's the grief, whatever it is that you're experiencing, just know you are not alone. And I want you to repeat that to yourself, because there's somebody who this is going to touch in a way deeper than you and I can ever imagine. Yes. You are not alone. There are people who have been through something perhaps similar to what you've been through, and who can help you to manage and go through that process. So Janice is one of those resources. We want you to leverage that resource. Connect with her at IamJanicebowles.com, and again on her Facebook group, which is, remind us again?
Let's Journey Through Grief Management and Healing. Let's
Journey Through Grief Management and Healing. It's been such a joy to have you here. I'm so proud of all your growth, your forward movement, and how you are using your heart work to really touch the world in a topic that is so critical, especially nowadays. So Janice Bowles, thank you so much, guys. We're going to take a brief break, and we're going to be back for our second segment with our next two amazing guests. We'll be right back.
We have powerful words, we have powerful minds. We use our voices and freedom takes flight. And we're ready to work, we're ready to win. We have a strategy and now we can begin. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. Now you are a champion. God is my witness. Imperfect perfection. Living my mission and winning. See, we are influencers. We have fear but don't stop. I have the confidence to rise to the top. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. All I need is inside of me. I am enough and now I see, I will reach my destiny, I don't need your permission, yes, I'm on a mission, I'll win. Oh, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah. to repeat after me, okay? Because we're going to make some declarations in here today. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. You say, I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. Say, I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see me. Say, oh, say I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. You say, we are standing bolder, we're shoulder to shoulder. We are standing bolder, we're shoulder to shoulder. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. Hey, yeah. We have powerful words, we have powerful minds. We use our voices and freedom takes flight. And we're ready to work, we're ready to win. We have a strategy and now we can begin. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. Now you are a champion. God is my witness. Imperfect perfection. Living my mission and winning. See, we are influencers. We have fear but don't stop. I have the confidence to rise to the top. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. All I need is inside of me. I am enough and now I see. Yeah, I will reach my destiny. Yeah, I don't need your permission. Yes, I'm on a mission. I'll win. Oh, oh, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now listen, I want y'all to repeat after me, okay? Because we're going to make some declarations in here today. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. You say, I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. Say, I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see me. Say, oh, say I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. You say, we are standing bolder, we're shoulder to shoulder. We are standing bolder, we're shoulder to shoulder. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. Hey, yeah. We have powerful words, we have powerful minds. We use our voices and freedom takes flight. And we're ready to work, we're ready to win.
We ready to work, y'all, and we are ready to win. Tammy Turner, thank you so much for sponsoring that song for our show. She wrote that song, she produced it in the studio, and she actually performed it at my conference in November, the 4th annual Playtime is Over conference. So we have just, embraced that as our anthem here on the show. So my next guest, such a phenomenal woman. I'm looking at her work here, as you guys can see on the screen if you're watching through voxwave.com. Her name is Cheryl May. She's a visual journalist and adjunct professor at Howard University who is passionate about history, culture, and storytelling through photography. You touch a funny bone, my funny bone, when you talk about storytelling through photography. Her work has been published in, but not limited to, the Afro-American, the New York Times, NBC, Fox, CNN, Essence, ESPN, Time, Forbes, and Vanity Fair. In 2016, she received the Acts of Kindness Outstanding Community Service Award with a citation from Governor Hogan and the Howard University School of Communications Chairs Award. You can see more of her work at CherylMay.com. That's CherylSSMay.com. Make sure that you look her up. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So excited to have you here. I'm looking at all this beautiful work here. I'm like, ooh, that's all I can say is ooh. So talk to us about this whole concept of being a visual journalist. What does that mean?
Right. So as a visual journalist, I love telling stories through pictures. So other journalists tell stories through words and they write stories. I tell them with my camera and through the pictures. So what I try to do is when I am photographing someone or I'm at an event, I just try to connect with the person, connect with the event, and tell the story that is unfolding.
And I feel like that's what we're capturing with these two photos that you have here. Tell us a little bit about both of these. And did Michelle Obama did you actually photograph?
Okay, so this looks like she
set for the picture. It really does.
But this actually is one of my photos that I did when I was covering an event at the White House, and this is called Hidden Figures, because she was hosting an event where they screened Hidden Figures, and they had the director and the actor and actresses from the movie of Hidden Figures. And so Mrs. Obama at the time introduced the panelists, but she also talked about the hidden figures that built the White House and that whole thing. So this was a reflective moment when she was speaking, and the way I saw it, it just connected with me, that hidden figures. She's really, this is something that's really deep and important to her. And I just froze that moment.
Beautiful. And so I'm gonna move this so the Facebook folks can kind of see. Hopefully they can see it. But you can keep talking, and you can tell us a little bit about the other picture that's up high.
The other picture that's on the stand here is actually at Howard University Homecoming in 2016, and this is the North Carolina Golden Delight dance team, and this was during the halftime show when they were performing. And so I was taking pictures at the game, and I was on the sideline, and I laid down and shot up and took this photo because I wanted to capture the beautiful movement of the dancers. And it was just the perfect day. The sky just opened up. The sun was out with the beautiful flags and the gracefulness in their dancing, and I just wanted to tell that story. So
you told it. You definitely told it. It is beautiful. So both of them remind me of paintings, as though you sit and painted this thing, and it just literally comes to life and just jumps out at you from off of the canvas here. So how did you get started? I think that's the big question. We talk a lot about your gift making room for you. We talk about, one of the questions I ask a lot of guests is, did you find it or did it find you? So tell us a little bit about your journey into getting to this place of being this phenomenal visual journalist.
Thank you. I would say that it found me. I actually started my career as a graphic designer. So I was in the creative space, but not really for photography, just on the design end. And I started working for newspapers, Washington Post, USA Today, are some of the papers I worked for, as a designer. So I would create the pages that you would see when you would get the paper.
Yeah.
You know, I was one of those that would lay that out and put together the photos and the graphics to communicate the story. In terms of the photography was always a hobby. Like, I always loved taking pictures, and my parents actually encouraged it, and they would, Christmas time and gifts, they would upgrade my camera.
I love it.
As I went along.
I love that. I love that.
So
that's real support. Like, that's,
it is.
belief in whatever it is that you say is the thing that you want to pursue.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was a hobby, and then it became a serious hobby where I really started, like, looking at equipment and investing in some things. Like, I really enjoy doing this. And then it went from a serious hobby to a friend of the family had a Christmas party. And, I'd have to say, like, the Hobson family, they really, I guess, like, put me on the path to really look at it as a career. Mm-hmm. Because they hired me to shoot their Christmas party. And I'm thinking this is going to be at their office, just take my camera, shoot some shots at a small office party. They had it at the Natural History Museum. So,
wow.
It went from, the small thing in my mind to, wow, this is really major. This is at one of the Smithsonian museums. They shut it down.
Wow.
They had the run of the museum. And so he's like, yeah, so we'll need some photos. They're going to do a scavenger hunt, and then we're going to have dinner there, and then there's going to be an award ceremony. And I was like, okay, wow. Like, I really have to change my outlook of how I'm approaching this job. Mm-hmm. And what I ended up doing was renting some equipment that I didn't have that I knew I needed to do the job well. So I researched that. I rented the equipment. I did the job. They were pleased. And I got paid.
And that's always a good thing.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, like, I can really do something. Like, I really like this. Like, I would want to do it again. I wasn't thinking about it at that point as a career. I was still, like, into design. But that was kind of my first light bulb moment. Like, I could do something that I really enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So from there, I just kept shooting. And I would slowly build up my equipment. I would start to upgrade, as I could. I would do, like, small jobs and events. And then I put together a website and start posting some of the photos that I took into a portfolio. And then I was contacted by a photo agency out of Italy called Noor Photo. Mm. And they contacted me and said, we saw your portfolio online. We're looking to partner with a photographer in the Washington, D.C. area because we need someone to cover news events there. And I had never thought about photojournalism. Like, I was on the design end of it, but not as a photographer. So from there, it's just like, for me, I love the challenge. I love something different. I love something new. And I love taking pictures. Like, I know now that's my passion and that's where I'm supposed to be. But they, asked would I be willing to work with them, and I thought about it and I said, sure, I will. So they actually requested, like, there were a couple of events coming up at the White House with the Obama administration. Mm-hmm. And so they said, can you cover these events? And I was like, sure, because I love history, I love culture.
Right.
This is our first African-American president.
Yes.
I was like, yeah, this will be a great opportunity. So when I went, I got hooked. I got hooked on photojournalism. I got hooked on storytelling. I got hooked on telling the story of news through photos.
Yeah.
Being able to go in there and actually provide, just have a different voice. Because I believe in all things that we need diverse voices.
Absolutely.
In that you need diverse representation.
Absolutely.
You need diverse voices to be able to represent the community. So once I did those couple of events and I sent the photos in, they liked the photos. They were like, okay, can we, so we signed a contract to continue that relationship. I started covering that's how I started covering the Obama administration at the White House. And from there, I just got hooked on photojournalism. Like, my passion for visual storytelling, my passion for just taking photos. It just, something in me awakened, and I knew that that's my purpose and where I'm supposed to be.
I love that. There's just so many pivotal things that you stated in that whole overview. You talked about, one of the things I heard is that you said yes to the doors that were presented to you, the doors of opportunity. And one of the things I encourage every one of my clients is say yes more than you say no. Were you ever afraid? Did you ever feel like, oh my God, can I handle this? Like they're asking me to go to the White House, or were you just totally confident?
No, I wasn't totally confident. No, I'm going to be honest. I wasn't totally confident. I'm a fish out of water.
Yeah.
I'm going into foreign land. Like, I don't know. I didn't come up, doing this. I didn't pursue this, from the beginning in school or, once I graduated from Howard University, HU. I didn't say, oh, I want to be a photojournalist. So it wasn't even in my scope of thinking. So for me to go there, it's like, it was a step out on faith.
Yeah.
And, God didn't give us a spirit of fear. So I was like, although I am scared and I don't know what's going to go on, I'm going to step out there and I'm just going to do my best.
Absolutely. Like that, you owe it to yourself to give yourself the opportunity to explore and discover what could be. A lot of times I feel like people have that feeling of fear, and fear is nothing more than just an energy, right? And I believe you can shift that energy from a fearful energy into an energy of faith and an energy of belief and confidence in yourself that, you know what, I'm going to go in and do the best that I can do. Not with that in comparison to anybody else, but you owe it to yourself. So many people hold themselves hostage to where they are instead of exploring what could be because they're afraid that they're going to fail. They're afraid and they start to think about all of the negative things that could happen instead of the enlightening things that can happen and look at the trajectory that put you on. So saying yes to the opportunities, even when you are afraid, even when you are going into that foreign territory, as you mentioned. And then I love the other piece that you said, what I captured from that was you wasn't playing. Because when they said they were giving you this opportunity, offering you this opportunity, you went out and made sure that you were prepared for the opportunity. Because you said, I went and rented equipment the first time. And then you said you started to invest in your craft, meaning you started purchasing more equipment so that you could be the best. So it's not enough just to say, okay, I got the gig, bam, I'm good. No, how do you now show up as the best that you can possibly be in whatever that environment? That applies across the board, whatever the industry is. You've got to make sure that you are willing to invest in it because nobody's going to believe in it more than you believe in it. Nobody's going to put up more in it than you put up in it. Right. So it seems like if somebody heard this story right now, like I'm hearing the story, I'm like, it seems like it was easy for you. It seemed like, oh, well, this door opened, and then this door opened, and then that door opened, and that door opened, and here I am today. It's this brilliant, amazing woman who's been in time.
And it wasn't. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. It's not easy. This is a constant, continual story that's unfolding.
Yeah.
It took the support of family, friends, my belief in God, hard work. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that people don't see. Like you see the end product of the photos, but the work that it took behind the scenes, it's a lot of early mornings, late nights, long days, hurry up and wait, sitting around, waiting for that perfect opportunity. And then also when like photos like this, there's a lot going on at one time. And it's like you wait for that, you anticipate that one moment, that connection where you get the shot.
Yes.
Or what, some people like to call like the money shot, or something like that. But it's a lot of you're listening and waiting through a lot of things to get to these moments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what's that saying that people say, oh, you want the glory, but you don't want my story. Like, you see the glory and the beautiful, all the great things that are happening, but there's always a story behind that. And it's usually a story of hard work, dedication, persistence, falling flat on your face, but you get back up. So resilience, all those things are typically a part of anybody that you see successful, which is why I always encourage women to support each other. Like support another sister, because if you know how hard it is for you to achieve success, any level of success, then you know your sister who's achieving success is working just as hard, if not harder. She's sacrificing. She's, every day trying to avoid distractions, and she's making choices that are sometimes very difficult, hard choices. Her family is sacrificing. I know when I'm speaking all wherever in the world, my family is sacrificing. Now my husband, he got to do everything I would normally do. Now he's doing his job and my job.
Right.
So, people who are successful, it doesn't just come with the blink of an eye. And sometimes you can hear the story and you think it, and it's not that way. So I'm glad that you articulated that. Talk about, have you had any mentors and coaches who helped to guide you through the process of mastering this craft and really becoming so amazing?
Most definitely. I would be remiss if I don't talk about Fred Watkins. And he's been doing photojournalism for years. He used to shoot for years for Ebony. He was one of their photographers. And I met him when I was out shooting an event, and he just kind of took me under his wing. And he shared with me, different things to consider, different things I need to do so that I could grow. And he's been really instrumental throughout the years. Like, I could bounce things off of him. Like, what do you think about this? What should I do about this? How should I handle this? And it's I can't stress this enough, it's very important to have mentors and to have people who have your back and are in your corner, and they'll be honest with you. They'll have those honest conversations to let you know, like, okay, this is what you need to do here, or this is what you can do to improve or get better. And you have to have a willing and a teachable spirit and a mind that's open to accepting that advice and those things, and not be closed off to somebody is just barking at you or criticizing you. You have to be open to receive that. And some things may not line up with your spirit. Right. And some things you may okay, I don't receive that, that's not. But a lot of that you can cut through. Yes. Some of that, and you take from it what you need to receive. Absolutely. So that you can continue to grow and to get better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I've definitely had people who have been in my life who have opened doors of opportunity for me. I mean, nobody who's successful has gotten there by themselves. It just doesn't work that way. And so I'm shouting out Peggy Morris, who actually has a show here as well. She's the reason why I'm here on this show, because I came to her show and I was like, oh my God, it's so close to my house, I should come in and do a show. So Peggy Morris, who, oh my gosh, she believed in me before I believed in me. Like, seriously. Like, I was like, what? Who gonna listen to me speak? And she would open up the doors to her organization, Sisters for Sisters Network Incorporated, and she would let me come into her events and she would let me speak. I had a new book at the time, and every month, she would use my book as the premise of what we were going to talk about at that meeting. Okay. And she just opened so many doors, and she introduced me to events like George Frazier's Power Networking Conference, and that was the first time I went there, was in 2011. Had never heard about it before, didn't know anything, because I didn't come from that world. And she opened up so many doors of opportunity. And then I also have to shout out more recently Linda Clemens, who is a body language expert. She does body language work for FBI. She does Fortune 500 companies. I mean, she's bad to the bone. And she has really taken me under her wing as well to open me up to spaces that otherwise I would never, you mentioned that, spaces where I didn't even know this was possible. Right. I didn't even know this was here, this existed. And there's so much beauty in a woman opening that door for another woman, exposing her to it, woman or man or woman, especially when it's a woman. And so talk about that as well as we start to wrap up. How do you then reach back, and how do you help pull other people up? And if somebody's looking for a mentor, how do you I have people who inbox me all the time. Yeah. Can you mentor me? Girl, I don't even know you. Right? Like, how does somebody really identify a mentor, or does the mentor have to identify the mentee?
That's a good one. So, as you were saying, in terms of those support networks, I think it's important to, as I said earlier, to invest in yourself. Yes. To also, in that comes joining associations and organizations that will help you, get further in what you want to do. So organizations like WPOW, which is Women Photojournalists of Washington, NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists. Like, I'm a member of all of these organizations that continue to help me as I, move forward. in terms of identifying a mentee or, a mentee, trying to find that mentor, I get emails as well from people who are maybe interested in photojournalism, or maybe they've seen the work that I've done on social media or something. They're like, oh, I never thought about that, but you're like opening my eyes to, a possible career or something like that. So for one, I'm an adjunct professor at Howard University, so I work with students all the time. I've been doing that for 14 years now.
Wow.
So I mentor my students, like, constantly.
Right.
And some of them I even keep up with once they graduate, and, they'll bounce things off of me or ask my advice, or, I'll give them references, for things. But also I work with a couple of young people that I'm working with now as mentees. And one of them, she was identified for me. She was brought to me by a friend who goes to the young ladies' church. Okay. And her name is Gabrielle. And they go to church together, and my friend saw something in this young lady that she was like, she is like really focused. She's serious about this. And I think that she would benefit from spending some time with you and some things. So I said, well, let me talk to her. And that's the first thing really that I like to do. If somebody like approaches me and say, will you mentor me? Like, I want to find out some more about that person. For one, like, what are they about? What are they trying to do? Are they serious? Or is this going to be a thing where they just want the glory? They just want to get to the finish line, and they don't want to run the race. So if I talk to them and, I kind of get that sense of, okay, they're serious about this, or I see something in them, like there's a talent that's there that just needs encouragement, like I was encouraged, like someone did for me. And then I will say, okay, well, let's meet here, or let's go do this. And I'll start to, and that's another way to see how serious they are, or how focused they are. And so, like with Gabby, I took her to a
What
rally.
Gabby is this?
Gabby Crockett.
Oh, okay.
Gabrielle Crockett. Okay.
There's a lot of Gabbies in the world, I guess.
And so I took her to a rally, and it was like a civil rights march or something like that down in D.C. And it was raining, for one. And that's another thing, is people will say, oh, I want to do this, but if the weather is bad,
you better say
if it's early in the morning or late night or a lot of sitting around, then you see how serious they are about doing something.
Right.
So this particular march, it was a rainy day. It was raining. She had to meet me early in the morning in D.C. She did both of those things. Her mom, brought her, because she's 15.
Yeah, wow.
Her mom brought her. They met me early in the morning. I told her, I said, bring your rain gear, just have some with a hood, and, let's do it.
Yes.
And so she came, she showed up, I talked to her. And then on this first meeting, I just wanted to see what she was going to do, like how receptive she was going to be to any instruction that I gave her, and just to see like where her thinking was, how she was telling the story. I wanted to see that. And, it turns out that she really, it really is something there, and she does have a gift for it. So I've been, talking to her and working with her.
Fantastic. I mean, that's just, and I'm sure that's priceless for her to be able to be under the tutelage of someone who has your experience and your expertise. Now, for those of you who are a little older than 15 and you're looking for mentorship, I mean, look, from my perspective, I'm 44 years old, right? So I don't think that anything in life is free. And especially once you become a grown adult with a job, like it's going to be an investment. At some level, it's going to be an investment. And there have been people who I wanted to be mentored by, coached by, and I made the investment. One of them was Lisa Nichols, and world-renowned speaker traveling the world. If you don't know her, you've been living under a rock. But anyway, I made the investment for her to coach and mentor me. There are other people who have seen something in me and just taken me under their wing without necessarily a financial investment. But I will say this, I still believe there's always an investment. So those people who have ended up taking me under their wing are people that I intentionally add value to before I ever ask them for anything. I always, I'm like, okay, I spot the people that I'm like, okay, she's where I want to be. I want to be, but the first thing I say to myself is, everybody probably asking her to mentor them. That's the first thing, because I put myself in their shoes. And everybody's like, can you mentor me? Girl, I don't have the capacity. I got 3 kids. I got a husband. I got a business. I don't have the capacity, even if I wanted to be able to mentor everybody. So my question is always, how do I distinguish myself from everybody else who is asking for something? Who got their hand out saying, can you? I come to them and I say, I want to do this for you. I want to hire you, or I want to book you for a gig, or I want to bring my audience, my community to your event, or I want to talk about your new book to my event, or I just did a book signing with Mickey Taylor, who's the editor-at-large of Essence Magazine. That's me adding value, and in her own way, she has mentored me. In her own way, she has supported me in ways that otherwise I would have never. It's like, how do you get connected to the editor-at-large of Essence Magazine when you never met her before then, right? And I believe it is giving. So don't be afraid to give before you ask.
That's true.
There's another woman who she gonna mentor me. She don't know yet. But I believe that I was divinely connected with her. I went and saw her at an event a few months ago. Didn't get to connect with her in person because the line was that long.
Oh, wow.
Then she ended up being the speaker at the event I just went to in Naples, Florida. She wasn't even on the agenda.
Wow.
She was a fill-in speaker. She was a fill-in speaker because the keynote speaker wasn't able to come.
Oh, wow.
I look at the line. I was like, oh, my God, there's only like 5 people there. I was like, oh, I'm going. This is my opportunity. I went. Sure enough, got her cell phone number. And we had a conversation the other day. And I know that's going to develop into something that's beautiful and amazing, because she's beautiful and an amazing African-American woman who is just like killing the game. I'm like, oh, you going to teach me. You going to teach me. But I'm willing to put in the time, the energy, the effort, the support, the giving to her before I would ever dare ask her, can you mentor me?
Right.
And I don't think I've ever typically asked anybody, can you mentor me? It usually evolves into a mentorship because they see that I'm willing to pay my dues.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
that's
loving your work, loving everything that you're doing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I love seeing people come from kind of like, oh, just the underdog. Like, I didn't even know I was meant to do this. And now they're just soaring in the greatness of a gift that God has given them. So kudos to you. How do people connect with you? And if do you do like everyday folk events?
I do.
Or do it have to be at the White House?
No. And you
You're
know,
like, no, not no more.
I still go.
I know, that's right. You got a job to do. That's right.
No, and I don't look at things like, you know, Michelle Obama and then ordinary people.
Right.
It's like, to me, it's like everybody has a story.
Yeah.
Everybody has something to say. You know, I was brought up to, you speak to everybody.
Yes.
You treat everybody the same, no matter, you know, who they are, what position they have. And that being said, I do all sorts of things. You know, I do things, you know, outside of the work that I do at the White House or Capitol Hill or things like that. And I enjoy the variety of it.
Yeah. So how do they get in touch with you if they do want to book you or connect?
Sure. So my website is my first and last name, CherissMay.com. My email is my first name, CherIss, which is Cherise, at CherissMay.com. Again, that's CherIssMay.com.
And are you on social media?
I am. It's pretty much my first and last name. So Instagram, I'm Cherise May, CherissMay. Twitter, same thing. And if you just put my name in Facebook and all those things, I'm on all the social media, LinkedIn.
Beautiful.
Everything.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Keep up the amazing work. Keep being phenomenal. Keep storytelling, because you know that's my thing. That's storytelling. We just do it in a different way. You do it kind of, you know, visually, and I do it through verbal communication, but it's still the power of sharing someone else's story. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Guys, make sure you check her out, CherissMay.com, or connect with her all across social media at Cherise May. We're going to take a 1-minute break, and we're going to be back with our final guest, Miss Felice Pope will be with us in just a moment.
We have powerful words. We have powerful minds. ready to work. We're ready to win. We have a strategy, and now we can begin. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. Now you are a champion. God is my witness. Imperfect perfection. Living my mission and winning. See, we are influencers. We have fear but don't stop. I have the confidence to rise to the top. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. All I need is inside of me. I am enough, and now I see. Yeah, I will reach my destiny. Yeah, I don't need your permission. Yes, I'm on a mission. I'll win. Oh, oh, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now listen, I want y'all to repeat after me, okay? Because we're going to make some declarations in here today. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. You say. Yeah. I'm building my legacy for the whole world to see. Say.
All right, so I know you guys are feeling full of inspiration, motivation, empowerment, belief, all those great things, because our phenomenal women guests have just blown me away. And I know that you have been moved by the fact that they have had the courage to pursue things that perhaps weren't on their radar initially, but they were willing to show up in the space and willing to expand and willing to explore things that they perhaps never ever thought that they would do. But, you know, I believe in something called divine orchestration, and I believe that God will divinely orchestrate you exactly where you're meant to be. That's how you talking to Cheryl Wood, international speaker now, because I started off as Cheryl Wood selling T-shirts. People were like, wait a minute, how did you go from T-shirts to speaking? It was divine orchestration. It was that very first opportunity back in 2010 when Morgan State University said, hey, we heard about your T-shirt business. Would you come to our women's conference and teach a class to other moms in the Baltimore community about how to start their own businesses? And I felt so unqualified. I was like, they must have dialed the wrong number. They cannot possibly be looking for me. Speaking is not even on my radar. But I decided, just like we just talked to Sharice, I decided to say yes to the opportunity to explore. And it was that day, September 18, 2010, at Morgan State University, I discovered I was born to speak. That was my gifting to the world, and that's how I was going to leave my unique fingerprint. So we have another amazing guest who's going to close things down for us today. Her name is Felice Pope. She's a transformation catalyst who helps to pull your broken pieces together through her Peace, P-E-A-C-E, guys, Peace in Living Today Inner Circle, where she provides assistance to those who are dealing with depression, broken relationships, physical well-being issues, and financial instability. No matter how broken you feel right now, your broken pieces can be repaired with Felice's step-by-step program and guidance to sustain a stained glass living. The title of her acclaimed book, Stained Glass, Smile, You Can Be Healed. Welcome to the show.
Well,
so good to see you.
It's good to see you again.
So a transformation catalyst. Tell me what that really means. What is it that you do for people? How do you help people, and what's the solution that you really provide?
What the solution I normally provide, we try to look at what's happening in their life, and not so much as I should say clinically depressional, the emotional side, because I'm not a clinical doctor, but I do know that because I went through that, I didn't go through a doctor.
Right.
I had not a lot of mentors, but I had God to help me, and so God kept saying, "You need to write this book." And I kept saying, God, I can't write this book because everybody's going to see all my personal business. And
put your business out in the street.
I don't want my mama and my dad, and the children to know. So, but God said, your story can help someone.
Yeah.
And so I kept saying, okay, so this is what you want me to give back? Right. I just can't, pray for, because I'm a minister in the church. And I said, well, maybe I just pray for him. He says, no, it's bigger than what you think. So what we do is we help walk them through step by step at a pace that they could, keep up with. Because a lot of times you'll go through a program and people just rush you through it. Okay, give me your money and that's done. No. When you're talking about mentoring, I've been mentoring, I should say, through the power of God to different women. And people will come up and say, how do you smile like that? I know your home is broken. How can you come to church and still smile? I said, because it's God that does it. Because if it was me, I'd run away and hide from the world. But because I have 4 beautiful children God's blessed me with, I need them to see that when things happen in your life, you don't fall out, you fall in God.
Very powerful. You don't fall out, you fall into God and into his shield of protection, if you will. I love that. So it seems like that's been a recurring theme today, is really talking about sharing your story and telling your truth, even when it's not so pretty. And I believe that our story, really, our story, I say this all the time, your story is about you, but it ain't for you. And what I mean by that, when I say that, is you went through it, you went through the mess, the ugliness of it sometimes, the trauma, the drama. So yeah, it's about you because you went through the journey, but it's not for you, meaning when you keep all of the lessons that you learn to yourself, that's just selfish.
Right.
So it's really meant for you to share with someone else, yes, sometimes in this ugliness, so that somebody else can believe that there's hope beyond what they're currently going through. They can see a model of someone else who went through it and overcame. Now they're on the other side of it. And then I believe it's a freeing process. It's freedom for you, because you're getting that out, and it's freedom for someone else who is currently going through. So tell us your story in a nutshell that really led to the book.
What really happened, I was in the military for some years.
Wow, thank you for your service. Beautiful.
And as a soldier, you can't tell your commanders that you're being abused, especially as the sponsor, because most of the time they send the family and the spouse away, or they'll separate them. But because at that time it's just my daughter, I kept saying, God, I got to hide this, and I got to be strong. And because I was in denial, because I didn't get any broken bones. I got a scratch here and there. I grew up in St. Louis, and St. Louis was the #1 murder capital when I was a kid for years.
Wow.
So I would see people get beat up, and they, go straight back into it. So I'm like, there's nothing wrong with me.
Wow.
There's nothing wrong with me. I have to protect my family. And until the divorce happened, I began to be, I'm the failure. But God's like, you're not a failure. You're a success in me. You just made a wrong decision. You tried to stay, but there's nothing wrong with you. You're in me, and I'm in you, so that makes you greater. The greater's in you, so I'm calling you to a greater calling than you just sitting here being sad and depressed. And so I began to say, God, I need your help. Because I would fake it with my kids. Mommy's fine, but kids can feel that on the inside of you.
Oh, yeah.
Mom, are you sure? I'm fine. And when they would leave, I'd just lay in the bed all day. God, I need your help.
Yeah, it's definitely a recurring theme. That's what we talked about. I don't know if you heard Janice talking about her story of grief. She lost her dad, she lost her mom, then she lost her sister, who she hadn't spoken to in 6 years. And there was just so much grief around that, and she was depressed. But as we were talking about it, we said, especially as women, we have that habit of, how you doing? I'm fine. No, you're not fine. You're wearing a mask.
Right.
And we oftentimes are taught to keep it to ourselves, keep our business to ourselves. We don't put our business in the street. We don't tell nobody what's going on in this house, right? And so I believe there are a lot of women who are suffering with depression and brokenness and being battered and bruised because they're taught to keep it in. And it is, like you said, it's almost like a condemnation of yourself.
Yes.
Like there's something wrong with you that you did it. So talk about, are there steps that you take women through who are in that process where they are battered, they're broken, they're bruised, but they need healing? How do they even get started? Like, what's the starting point?
The first thing I would tell them is you have to recognize that this is not your fault. Though this is your life, you might have stayed because financial support.
Right.
Maybe you stay because, okay, get up and leave. Well, where are they going?
Right.
You have 3 or 4 kids. Where are you going?
Yeah.
They're in school. You got to move them. So first we tell them, listen, identify that this is not your fault. Then let's get you help. Because you can identify it's not your fault, but if you don't get the help, and I tell them, we're not telling everybody your business. This is something secret. Just come into the circle and everything's private. You don't know who you are, especially on social media. You can be anybody.
Right.
So you can be anybody on social media.
And it's a lot of fakers out there. It's a lot of pretenders. That's so true.
You know, then we say, okay, now let's talk about it. Or if you don't want to talk, but let's listen about it. These are the scriptures that I use to help me. These are the methods that we change your mindset. Because if I can change your mindset, I can change the way you see things. If we can change the way you see things, then the things you look at will change. If I can give you some hope through the Word of God, because that's my hope. That's the ultimate hope that we deal with as Christians. And I tell them, I said, there's no other strength that I know of. There's no other person I know that can heal. There's no other person I know that can do that for me but God. And so we walk them through that steps. And then we let them know, listen, there's talents inside of you. You know, you're beautiful, fearfully, wonderfully made by God, and He's giving you all these gifts. So let's explore one at a time to get you to the place where you can be strong enough to stand on your own and not turn around and go back.
Yeah. You said so many pivotal things there. So number one step is to identify that it's not your fault. It's not about you. It's somebody else's lack that's causing them to behave in whatever way that they're behaving that's impacting you in a negative space, in a negative way. So I think that's very critical. But then you link that to the mindset piece, which is so important in anything that we're going to accomplish in life. Anytime we're going to forge ahead beyond something that's difficult or challenging, it really is about what we're telling ourselves over and over and over again. And sometimes you need to be in this type of inner circle or support group, like we've been talking about all day, your front row, your inner circle of people who are reminding you that you're amazing, that you're great, that you're powerful, that you are courageous and bold, and you have what it takes to move forward. And so I think that is just brilliant, the work that you're doing to reaffirm, let's call it reaffirmation.
Yes.
The reaffirmation that you give to women to believe you can make it beyond what you're currently going through. Even with myself growing up, I grew up in an environment where my dad suffered from alcoholism, and he used to become very violent when he got drunk. And so I went through this whole process as a child of seeing my dad get drunk, and then, you know, he's fighting my mom, and then she puts him out, and then he goes outside and he's busting the windows in our apartment, and then the police get called and he goes to jail. I mean, I saw that so many times I can't even count. And when you see that so many times, you start to think that's normal.
That's normal. Right?
And then it's so hard. And this is what I found with my mom. It was so hard for her to leave that environment because it became her normalcy.
Yes.
And then you pass that on to your children who see it and think it's normal, that you argue, he gets drunk, he beats you up, and then he goes to jail, and then you go visit him in jail and take him socks and cigarettes.
Yes.
So it's like it is this vicious cycle that can continue if you don't nip it in the bud, and if you don't have people who are really fueling your mindset to say you deserve more, you deserve better. So give us other tips. What are other things that women can do in terms of, number one, they acknowledge that it's not their fault, and then I think you gave us number two, which is to start getting help by being in a group or inner circle of people who are reaffirming that you can move beyond this. Is there anything else that you would encourage women to do who are going through a phase of broken relationships or any type of depression?
Positive affirmation was what I was going to say when you were saying that. Because I can be in a group, you can be in an AA Allen, you can go to church and you experience God, but you still got to go home.
That's so true, right.
Okay, so church is only maybe an hour or two, depending on where you're going, maybe 3 or 4 hours, depending. But I have to go home. So put affirmations up. I have affirmations over my wall, and I would have scriptures over my wall. Even when my former husband would come home, I would tell myself, God, help me get out of this. And when you do, show me how to stay strong. Because oftentimes we fall back in that pity party. Well, I feel so sorry for them, and they're going to be without me. And, they give you that same, turn that negative off. Look at yourself and see God created me for better. The better part of me has not been discovered because I'm in this situation. Doesn't mean it's my end. This may be my beginning, but I've got to get out of this situation and find some help. Domestic violence shelters. Find a friend. However you do it, I always tell people pray about it because you don't know what type of abuser you're dealing with. Because some people can say, oh, fine, I don't care, you're leaving, and you leave, and that's the end of your life.
Right.
So I always tell people, get help. Make a map, a plan. Run it past someone who has professional, because like I said, I'm not certified, but I know we can help you in ways that you might not be able to always talk to the domestic violence hotline 24/7.
Right.
You might not want to share all your personal business. because you might be on the phone and they hear you, but you can be on social media, be in Peace and Living Inner Circle, and we can help people. So I tell them, make a plan, stick to the plan, and look at the future, the end of it. What is the end that you want to see? Declare that end from the Bible says that God declares the end from the beginning and the beginning from the end. So what do you want your end result to be?
Yeah,
you know, vision boards are good, but you have to have a mental picture in your mind before you even put it on the board.
Absolutely. You got to visualize, you know, what it is that you want. As you mentioned, you have to see, Zig Ziglar says, you have to see the reaching in your mind before it ever manifests, right?
Yes.
So it's very important that we think about what is the thing that we really want to manifest in the end of it. I love that. That's a powerful technique, visualization technique. And so when they come into this inner circle, first of all, how do they get into the inner circle? How do they connect with you? And then my question beyond that is, when they come into the inner circle, is it, because you mentioned a lot about confidentiality and space where you pour into them, but is it a combination of individual kind of coaching and supporting and group support?
It's both.
Tell us, okay, tell us more about it.
What I would tell people to reach out to me on my website, FeliceRenee.com, and they can go through that and they can reach out there, or they can find me on Facebook, Peace and Living Today, because it started off as a radio broadcast. And when Facebook has those restrictions sometimes, since the page has been so long that way, it can't. But there's also Peace and Living Inner Circle that they can reach out and they can sign up for the page and we can get them through that program. But then I also do individual as the person needs or how my time goes. But it's both, depending on the need of the person. Because like you said earlier, my capability, I can't handle everybody.
Yeah, you don't have the capacity. It doesn't matter how amazing you are.
Yes,
what you do. Yeah, absolutely.
It depends on the needs of the person. And then I'm always led by God, because I don't like to think that, because I'm a Christian, I can just reach everybody. No, whoever God leads me to.
Yeah.
And there's certain people that text me sometimes during the night, and I'll get, okay, give me a minute to wake up.
Right.
And then I'll give them something and say, well, thank you, I don't want to disturb you or something like that. But I let them know, listen, as a minister, Jesus was available 24/7. And so how he leads me, that's how we take them. But the group is open to anybody. But, it's also, like you said, there's a little fee that goes with that. But a membership, it's like a membership fee. So,
okay.
But they can reach out to me at Peace and Living Today, or they can reach out at Peace and Living Inner Circle.
Okay. So you guys, you have the information. Make sure if it's not applicable to you, do you know someone who needs it?
Yes.
I think a big part of really being a sisterhood is not just looking at something and say, oh, I don't need that, I'm good, and you turn the channel, right?
Right.
It's, oh my God, I know a sister who really could benefit from that. And sometimes we don't know we need it.
Yes.
Right? How do you get through to women who they're in a space of, like how when women are in love at first, like you can't see the truth, but everybody else can see the truth. Sometimes when you need to get out, you can't really see the truth. Other people can see the truth and they can see the detriment that is happening to you. Is there a way that you're able to reach women who are in that space where they really need to get out, but maybe it is fear. Maybe it's fear for their life, or number two, maybe it is fear of the lack of financial stability because they become dependent upon whatever that situation is financially. Is there a way that you're able to reach them, or do you just say, well, we just encourage them, but we leave it alone? How do you handle that?
Well, what I normally do is I do the book. The book is like a non-confrontational invitation.
I love that. Say that again. That's so good. That's so good.
It's a non-confrontational invitation. And what I normally do is I give them a free chapter. You can go get the free chapter at the website, FeliceRenee.com. And most of the time, if people think that's them, they'll buy the book. Or I'll tell people, buy the book. Because I know just for myself, you coming up asking me, well, I see you and your husband fighting and screaming, and you know how sometimes people do.
Yeah.
You be like, because you don't want the abuser to know that somebody's in the business, because that's going to cause more.
Exactly. Yes.
So you try to keep everything on a low key. And the book's called Stained Glass Smile, You Can Be Healed.
Right.
It doesn't say anything about mask or abuse or anything.
Yeah,
so as you start reading it, it's about my life, but it also gives examples of the other people. So I'm asking, is this you in the book? If this is you in the book, you need to get help. Is this you? Because I want you to know that if this is you, you need help.
again, it goes right back to the power of telling your story, whether it's verbally, whether it's through the visual art like Sharice, whether it's through in writing. Like, telling your story can save somebody. It can free them. It can save them. And so if you have a powerful story, which all of us do, you need to be sharing your truth. And I always tell people that it's important that you tell your story, because one or two things happen. If you don't tell your story, right, either number one, it doesn't get told, which that's a big piece of your legacy that now gets lost. Right. Or number two, it gets told from somebody else's perspective.
Yes.
I don't want nobody telling my story. No, I got this. I'm gonna tell what happened. You ain't got to tell it. I'm gonna tell it, right? Yes. So my father, he passed away in 2009. He passed away on Thanksgiving Day, and he never told his story, right? So now my father's story either will never be told, or it will be told from my perspective, or my sister's perspective, or one of his sister's perspective, one of his last living sisters. But it was so amazing how much stuff came out about my father after he passed. Because, again, in the African American community, it's like, oh, we don't tell our business, we won't talk about it. So then after he passed, I found out all of this about abuse that he had experienced, which undoubtedly led to the person that he had become, and relying on alcohol as the thing that would numb his pain. So I never knew this. Growing up my entire life, I just thought my father was crazy. He was crazy, but I didn't know what was behind that. Right. And I didn't find out until the man, he's gone. So all of us really owe it to ourselves to share our story. And I love that you have put it in the book, this non-confrontational invitation to read your story, but then your story is about you, but it ain't for you, to impact somebody else's life through that written story. Yes. Powerful. Very, very powerful. Tell us one more time how people can connect with you. And you guys, if you know someone, because, sometimes we do know folks who need the help and need the support, but they're not going to reach out. And maybe you as a friend or a support system can just recommend, or you can buy the book for them. How about that? You buy the book, and then that can perhaps usher them into the space that they need for help and support and for healing.
Okay. They can go to Felice Renee. That's FeliceRenee.com. They can buy the book under the Shop for Now tab. And they also can find me on Facebook under Peace and Living Today. And that's my social site. You can find me at Felice Renee Inc. on Twitter. And I think that's it, basically. I don't do a lot of other social media.
Well, I always say Google her, because all of my guests are Google-licious,
yes,
Hunty.
Google.
You can just put their name in Google and you will find them. So any closing words before we wrap up?
I do want to say that if you are in a domestic violence relationship, get help. Don't stay there. Reach out to someone. And if you know someone and you see it's getting help and you're not getting through them, buy that book. It is a non-confrontational invitation, because the last thing you want to do is to cause any further harm to them by embarrassing them, because in that state you can be suicidal. Mm-hmm. And we have lost too many people already to suicide in our community. We've lost too many people through abuse. So please, if you know someone in that situation, if that's you, I encourage you to buy the book and go get help, because God loves you and you're important to Him. And He made you for a reason, more than just what you are now. So if you could see your future, it's a lot brighter than what you think it is. Okay?
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us. I love your mission and your vision. It's necessary. It's important. And I think every one of us has a divine assignment. Yes. And I can't do the work that you do. I can't do the work that Sharice does. Everybody has their divine assignment. You guys hear me talk about Amina McWhirter all the time. She's one of our partners here. And she has her organization, Love by the Handles. And she also works with domestic violence survivors and people who are transitioning. And I had an event with her, hosted an event, and I just was like, by the end of that, it was just an evening. It was just an evening event, y'all. And by the end, I was just like, why I am not equipped for this type of work. So you have to be a special person to be equipped and divinely equipped for this work. And so I thank you for how you serve the world and serve the community, and thank all of our guests who are with us today. You guys, we will be here again next Wednesday, same time, same place, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Keep being amazing, and make sure that you are using your unique gift to impact the world. We'll see you next week.
We have powerful words, we have powerful minds. We use our voices and freedom takes flight. And we're ready to work, we're ready to win. We have strategy, and now we can begin. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder. Playtime is over. Playtime is over. Now you are a champion. God is my witness. Imperfect perfection. Living my mission and winning. See, we are influencers. We have fear but don't stop. I have the confidence to rise to the top. We are standing bolder, shoulder to shoulder.